As I said, I'm using my own system. So this is what my.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Sure. Fine. Now you can see the screen on my back, now.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, which we have arranged for you all. So this particular webinar we have arranged under through the support of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. One of our flagship programs which we conduct with the ministry is Startup Gateway for Garbage Free Cities, wherein we are supporting uh, startups from the domain of waste to wealth in their journey of uh, making garbage India 100% garbage free, right? So currently we have a cohort of 20 startups whom we are supporting, and we are planning to onboard another 45 startups very soon. So there is a portal on our website. You can go and check that out. You can apply for this particular initiative from there. There is grant support under this particular initiative of 20 lakhs, which can be utilized for various purposes or for the startups who are working in the sector of waste. I will now request Rishabh to please play the video which was shared with you.
Sure, sir. Give me a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, Rishabh. Moving on, I'll just set up the context for this particular webinar. What we have seen at our incubator is that all the technology-driven startups, the founders, right, they have a disconnect with the investment ecosystem, And because they are more inclined towards raising funds to develop the technology, there is a gap which we analyzed at our end in the investment vertical of the incubator, that how can we improve the thought process of these innovators, right? So for that we have with us Ms. Prachi Jain. So I'll give a brief introduction about her. She is currently co-founder and chief strategy officer for Ednovate EdTech, which has been recognized as top 100 women in finance uh, by AIWMI, and she is an All India rank holder, chartered accountant, company secretary, and a bachelor's of law. Holds certificate in ESG investing by CFA and completed Global Gender Lens Investing Fellowship, Asia 2023. There are lots of other accolades also associated with her name, but I'll focus more upon what we are going to talk about today. And shifting focus to Prachi, over to you now. I'll request Rishabh to kindly spotlight Prachi because her presentation will be running as her background. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ankit, for such a wonderful introduction. And I'm humbled to be part of Mentor at IIT Kanpur. And so Ankit didn't mention that I'm very, very passionate about creating an ecosystem for entrepreneurs. So for me, it's a gradual progression from being in the private equity venture capital industry of 15 plus years to be an entrepreneur myself. And I started this journey like 6 to 7 months. But as I say, I think that it's a paid forward moment for me, where whatever I've learned through these 15 plus years, being part of this industry as an investment officer, fundraising, portfolio monitoring, giving webinars across, I feel that this is something which I truly want to do and continue doing. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity, Ankit, Tushar, and IIT Kanpur. And now focusing on to what we are all here for, fundraising strategy. So while speaking with Ankit told me that the problem comes is like technocrats are extremely good in doing what they are doing. But unfortunately, what happens is when they go and present their pitch to various investors, it becomes a little difficult for them, because suddenly these are terminologies, jargons which is being used, and also certain concepts which they are unaware about. I'll also need active participation from attendees here, if possible, Ankit, maybe by way of chats or something like that.
Yeah, so we have a Q&A comment section open for all the participants. So I would request all the participants to not wait for the end of the webinar to post their questions. As and when they have questions, they can feel free to put in the Q&A box.
Yeah. So I think this is something, this slide is something which I think all of you will resonate with. So this is what need for, just give me a second, I'll just do this a little shorter. Yeah. This is, so need for fundraising. So I think each one of you would have pondered over these questions. See, what is the timing for me to do the fundraise? Is this the right time? Am I capable of raising fund? What is the purpose of raising fund, right? First of all, tell me, did all of you have these kinds of questions? Just say yes or no in the chat if possible. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, I'll just say, what is the stage of my funding? What are the various options for fundraise? What are various investor types? Okay. What are external entities which may help me out? What should be the valuation of my company, which in turn determines the dilution? How much should I raise? So optimum raising of equity funding or debt funding is equally important. Legal status of the startup, or how to prepare a pitch deck. I think each one of you would have thought about these questions somewhere or the other point in time of your entrepreneurship journey. And I am here to kind of help you out, to assist in answering all these questions for you. So to start with, the most important question, which I think everyone tend to forget, and which they realize at a point in time, maybe when an investor have agreed to invest into their company and they are at a stage where they're executing the term sheet, and then they realize that their entity cannot take funding because they are not appropriately being set up, or they do not have a legal existence. So understanding that a lot of technocrat startups or a lot of tech related startups are within the incubation center, and a lot of times these are research based startups, and they do not actually think of registering themselves as a legal entity. And I think this becomes very, very crucial. And I was discussing this with Ankit, that when you realize this, then there is a process and there is a gap of 30-35 days, because an investor will never going to give you money if you are set up as an unregistered partnership, or if you are set up as just maybe a sole proprietor. So what you really need to understand is that as you want to go out in the market to raise funding, what you really need to determine is the legal status of your entity, which could be either, so I'll say sole proprietorship, partnership, not great when you want to go out and raise funds, because they would want to have some kind of legal existence in place for them to give you funding. So starting with limited liability partnership or an LLP, which is like, though it has all the advantages of partnership, but the liability of a partner becomes limited. And this is a very new concept which came in around 2014-15. Private limited company, I'm sure everyone would be aware about. Unlisted public company and listed public company. I will leave the unlisted and listed public company apart for the time being, because we have not reached at that stage. But I would request all of you to kindly register yourself as a limited liability partnership, which is an LLP or a private limited company, before you go out and scout for investors for funding, because unnecessarily you will waste, maybe I'll say approximately 20-25 days in terms of arranging for documentation and getting your entity registered. Though there is a single window clearance, wherein once you submit all the documents, you'll get it in a single day's time. But unfortunately, arranging all documents take a lot of time. So this is one guru gyan which I want to give you, that kindly please focus on this. And of course, the determination of which entity you want to select is based on the stage of your business, where you are. If you're very early, I would not suggest you to kind of go out and start spending money in creating a legal structure. It's better you create something and then maybe kind of evolve and then start an LLP or a partnership or a private limited company. As I say, ease of formation, cost of formation, compliance requirement, liability, whether you want an unlimited liability, partnership forms have an unlimited liability versus a limited liability. Ability to raise capital, again, LLP, there is a gray area. You can raise capital from domestic investors, but when it comes to raising capital from international investors, LLP is an entity which they do not look at very lucrative way to make an investment, and they would prefer a private limited company. Of course, then comes the question pertaining to transfer of ownership and perpetuity of business. So LLP and private limited companies seems to be the best option if you have at a stage where you are at a seed stage and you are done with your research. There's a little POV available, like a proof of concept POC of your business and all. I would suggest that you should go for LLP and private limited company. So this is first thing which I want you to keep in mind. Now, what is important is you have to understand what is the stage of your funding requirement, right? Because I feel a lot of times we end up going to the wrong investors because we don't realize that we are not at a stage. So if an angel investor wanted to make an investment, they will typically make an investment in a company which meets the requirement. However, if let's say a series A company goes and start raising, pitching to an angel investor, they would not be interested. So what you really need to understand is when there is an angel investor or there is an angel investment, the company, which is an entrepreneur, should be at an ideation stage, or they should have a MVP, or there should be a proof of concept or a pre-revenue, and it should be pre-revenue. When it is a seed investments, you have to have again MVP, proof of concept. There should be some traction with customers, with revenue stabilizing. It can be either pre-revenue or revenue. Pre-series A, which is again early stage, you should have some traction with your customer. The proof of pudding is there. Your product is already being accepted in the market. Series A, again, everything which is there, plus there is a revenue, there is a repeated customer, there is profitability or path to profitability. Series B, Series C, again, it's for a bigger kind of investments which is available. So I would say that you have to identify which stage of investments you are in. I would request if all of you could just, if it's possible in the chat box or Q&A, if you could write where you identify yourself as being. Is it seed, angel, or pre-series A? Because this helps you in determining other things which I'm just going to explain you now. Okay. If you want, because I just want to make this interactive. If you're all just want to listen, I'm happy doing that as well.
Yeah, so we have received comments from Aditya Thakur. He's
Okay.
saying pre-seed.
Seed. Okay, got it. Okay,
Pre-seed, pre-seed.
Pre-seed. Got it. Aditya, got it. So again, so if you're pre-seed, pre-seed, so maybe typically angel investment is what you would be looking at, and the angel investors is what you should be kind of approaching to. Now, as I've just briefly touched upon the investors. So investors can be categorized based on various types. One is based on the jurisdiction. When I say jurisdiction, they can be domestic investors, which means investors who are resident individuals of India, or they can be foreign investors who are investors outside India. And why this becomes very important? Because when these investors makes an investment, that what kind of instrument, and when I say instrument, it means whether it will be equity, whether it will be an preference shares, what kind of preference shares it would be is determined based on their residential status, whether they are domestic or foreign investor, because there is an FEMA regulation, which is Foreign Exchange Management Act, which comes to play an important role when any foreign investor wants to make investments into India. So you have to specifically determine whether you are seeking funding from domestic investors or foreign investors, and accordingly prepare yourself. Now, this is really important. This is type of investors for fundraising based on instrument. So I am typically of the view that when you are at a pre-seed, angel, or seed stage, and if you are doing a business which has the capability, or a research-oriented business where you can get grant from BIRAC, from IITs of the world, I would request you to always go for that grant at an early stage, because this is a non-dilutive capital. And when you are at a very initial stage of your business, it is not okay to value your business, because you may think that it's a 100 crore business, but an investor may think it's just a 10 crore business. And that's where the friction comes in. And also the fact that you want to raise money, right? And you feel that it's okay, it's fine. And a lot of time I've seen companies actually giving away majority of their stakeholding at that point in time. And later on, it becomes very difficult for them to raise follow-on rounds, as well as individually for them to be attached to the business, because when you just have, like at Series C level, only 5% equity in your hands, then it becomes little difficult, and your interest also lessens out, right? So as much as possible, try finding solutions or instruments which leads to very limited dilution at a very early stage of your business. As you grow, definitely you'll get the right valuation, right numbers, and you can definitely dilute. But very initial stage, I would request everyone to go for this grant, which is non-dilutive funding stage. When you're doing your research and you know that you have a great idea, great product, you could do wonders, but you're still yet to settle and reach at a Series A stage. Then comes help from incubation and accelerators. Maybe I'll say 2014, before 2014, there were hardly few numbers of accelerators and incubators people could count on. But with 2015-16 onwards, I think India became the startup ecosystem of the world, the third largest ecosystem of the world. And that's where the importance of these incubators and accelerators started coming in. And I will say IIT Kanpur is one of those incubators, which will help you to kind of provide you a lot of learnings. It's kind of a cohort where they give you they will give you infrastructure, place for your business to grow. But of course, they will take a little small amount of equity. I think every accelerator incubators have their own formulas, but they will take a little equity, which I think is palatable because they're giving you those resources, which as an individual or maybe a smaller team member, you will not be able to get through. Plus, you will get access to the global networks. You will get access to the best of the world facilities available. So I think when you are at a seed stage, pre-seed stage, early stage, go out, search for these incubators, accelerators, where you can be part of those cohorts, depending upon whether it's a research or it's into something else, and be part of their programs and try. And it's fine when you are diluting just 2 to 5% of this, because there's a lot of value which is coming from there. Then comes what I call as impact investors. So we really need to understand that there is a difference between social investors and impact investors. So sorry, there's a difference between social impact investors and commercial investors. Social investors primarily don't look into returns as much. So if you are doing a social, so if you're a social entrepreneur, I would request you to not go to an impact or commercial investors, because they may not be able to understand, or they are not the right investors for you. So I would request that the investors which you should be approaching to should be social investors. However, if you are into the impact business, which may be sustainability, clean tech, I would request you to go and find impact investors. If it is hardcore commercial business which you are doing it, go and find a commercial investor. As circa 2023, we have realized that there is a very thin line of demarcation between impact and commercial investors, because all commercial investors are now looking for certain impact which the business can create, whether it be sustainability, clean tech, whatever it is. But find your partners, or I will say find your investors well. I think that is crucial and very, very important. Early stage VC investors, again, as I say, they prefer instruments which are more like a convertible instrument. And I will explain all these terminology to you as I move on to the next slide. Convertible note and safe. When I come to late stage VC investors, again, it's not relevant for you. But for academic purposes, I put in here, they would prefer more like a preference shares or a pure equity or an equity linked instruments. And when it's a pure play private equity, when you have reached at a level where you've crossed Series C, Series D, it is more like a pure equity or equity linked instrument, which they would be preferring to. So if you have any questions, happy to answer those. But I think why I wanted you to first have a clarity about your investor, because it's equally important that you find the right investor, because so how we used to define it is, it's kind of a marriage with a fixed divorce date, right? So investor may come in after a particular point in time, maybe 3 years or 4 years, the investor may have to go out. But even though the divorce date is fixed, we have to have that 5 years of happy married life, right? And that could happen only when you have chosen the right investor. Because if the investor is not correct, it would be very, very difficult for you. And I've seen a lot of time business getting closed because of that. Their ideologies are not matching, because they're put in money, they have good amount of stake, they're putting pressure on entrepreneurs to do certain things in a certain way. And ultimately the business suffers, because maybe they're not understanding the passion, or maybe they don't have that expertise. Having said that, having the right investors who understand your business may help you in growing to maybe X-fold, and this number would be much higher. So find your partners, find your investors well, and which is dependent upon whether you need a domestic investor, international investors, and upon based on the instrument which you want to dilute at an early stage of your life. Now, this is very important, and I'll take a little longer time to explain this slide. And I think most of you would be having sometimes difficulty in understanding what these instruments really mean. So when I say instrument, so when it's a private limited company, typically an investor may come and take shares in those companies, right? Those shares could be equity shares, which is the equity shareholding of the company, or they may share preference shares. A preference shares have a preferential rights over an equity share. So it's part of the holding or stake of the company which these investors are taking. So when I say pure equity, it means assuming you have 100% equity share and I have taken 10% pure equity share from your company, This means that 10% equity shares I own and you guys own 90% equity shares. At an early stage of your life, where you are maybe a 2-year-old or a 2.5-year-old organization, I would request you to not use this instrument as a funding instrument at a very early stage of your life. This is not advisable by me. The second kind of instrument is, which has been recently been put in by Companies Act 2013, which talks about equity shares with differential voting rights. It means it is the same equity shares as we have discussed earlier, but they may have a differential voting rights. So they may own 10% of your equity and may have 50% of your voting rights, or vice versa. So to whom you are giving these DVRs, equity shares with DVRs, you have to think through that. And again, as I say, I would not advise you to use this instrument at an early stage where you are, because you do not want to give voting power. So voting power implies that the power to decision making rests with those people, right? So I would urge all of you not to use this instrument at an early stage, because there may be a possibility an investor may ask you to may have just 10% equity shares in the company, but may take 40 to 45% of differential voting rights, which means that they will get more dividends, more voting in terms of crucial business matters. So I think, again, this is out for me for the purposes at stage where you are, not advisable at all. Not what comes as a pure preference shares. So preference shares may be a better option as compared to equity shares, because what an investor is taking is not an equity holding in your company, but a preference shares. A preference shares can be redeemable or irredeemable. When I say redeemable, it implies it's more like a debt instrument, but it has little features of equity, whereby there is no interest component associated with it. There may be a dividend component, which may not be as high as interest component. Of course, if the company is not earning profits, you can accumulate those dividends and make payment when the company started earning profit, which is not the case when it's a pure debt instrument. Preference shares have preferential right at the time of liquidation of the company, and they have to be paid before any equity shareholders are being paid. Again, this instrument, I will, in its purest form, which is like preference shares, I will not advise any one of you to take this instrument. What I advise you now is what everybody is doing in this world and in the startup space is equity linked instrument or convertible instrument. I think is the best option for you all, because you will not be diluting your pure equity stake, but diluting a particular percentage based on the future valuation of the company, which is good as well, because as I say, there's a lot of times difference in terms of the valuation as to the investor says that it is 30, and as a promoter, you always feel that your company is valued at 100. So this gap of 50-60% always remains. So I would request that when you want to kind of raise funding, it's always better to go get grant if it's possible. But if that is not the case and it's like a pure impact or a commercial investors, I would request that you should go for some convertible instrument, which could be a convertible preference shares or could be a convertible debentures. Now, depending upon the investor base, like if it's a domestic investor, you could use any of the instrument. However, the restrictions comes in when you use it, when the investor is an international investor, because there are guidelines called FEMA, which you need to comply with. And it says that an international investor cannot either take a pure equity, but cannot take an equity linked instrument unless certain things are being determined, right? So that becomes very crucial, and it can only take instruments which are compulsorily convertible, which technically means that what may come, these instrument needs to be converted. Okay. So a domestic investor may buy and may take from your company an optionally convertible preference shares or an optionally convertible preference shares or a debenture. However, if it's a foreign investor, what you can only issue to them is compulsorily convertible preference shares and compulsorily convertible debentures, because these instruments needs to be compulsorily convertible. They are not allowed under FEMA Act to kind of own OCPS, which is optionally convertible or optionally convertible debentures. So there are more nuances to it, but I'm not loading you with a lot of details right now. But what you should know is that this is what is there. Now, I think 2017-18 onwards, pre-pandemic, a little 1.5 years earlier, what is called as a convertible note. Again, very preferred instrument by a lot of early stage startups. And these instruments can be issued to an international investor is the beauty of this particular thing. The way I just explained to you that if it's a domestic investors or international investors, that various instruments which can be issued. However, convertible note, even though it is a note, it has to be need not be compulsorily convertible, but convertible as per the terms which is being determined under the DPIT. So under the FEMA Act, sorry. So what are convertible notes? So these notes can be issued only if a startup is registered with DPIT. So I'm not sure how many of you have already been registered with DPIT. If not, I would request you to kindly make that registration of yourself as a startup, because it's very, very important. Also as an MSME, because there are a lot of benefits which you will get after registering yourself. I know it's a little hassle, but it's a simple process, and I'm sure IT Kanpur may assist you in doing that. But please do that, because convertible notes can be issued by a DPIT registered startup. The minimum investments actually which you could take is as minimum as 25 lakhs in a single tranche. The note is redeemable or it's convertible as per the terms of the note which you have determined in an agreement. But the maximum term is for 5 years, which again is it's the beauty of the instrument, that it's a convertible instrument, redeemable, and still a foreign investor. You can raise funding from a foreign investor. Again, it's similar to optionally convertible debentures, and it can be subscribed by foreign investors. And as I tell you that in spite of being an OCD kind of an instrument, you can still, international investors can still subscribe to it. So it gives you that flexibility of not diluting your equity stake and still getting money from foreign investors. Now, I think SAFE is the recent instrument. I think a couple of years back, everybody is using that. It's simple agreement for future equity. Most preferred option, if an investor agrees to that, it's like a warrant, whereby the actual price of the instrument is determined at a later stage, which I was just talking about. That today your business may be, valuation of the business may be 10 crores. But if you think that your business, and again, based on the numbers, the projection, the business is valued at 30 crores. So after 2 years, your business is valued at 30 crores and the dilution happened on those numbers. Of course, you have to the numbers which you have agreed to, you have to achieve those numbers, because everything is a multiple of something. So once you achieve those numbers, this is one of the best options, because instead of diluting, maybe let's say X percentage today based on the current valuation, you are diluting X minus some percentage based on the future valuation of the company. And this can again be, you could convert these investors into a follow-on rounds, and they could have date of maturity. So I mean, there's various options available for SAFE, but this is again, as I say, one of the best options. So considering your stage of business, equity link instrument or convertible instrument makes sense for you. Convertible note makes a lot of sense for you. SAFE makes sense for you. So I think these are broader, and as we speak, there's more instruments which are being evolved around, but they will be around these particular things only because issuance of instrument is governed by Companies Act 2013, and we couldn't actually kind of issue any instrument which is not in compliance with that. So these are the basic primary instrument. The features may be here and there, but these are the instruments which you always have to keep in mind when you are subscribing your equity capital to a domestic investor or foreign investors or to any other investors. I hope you're all able to understand this particular thing. I know this is a little technical again, but this is very, very crucial and important for you all to know and understand, because this becomes an important part of deal structuring. And I see a lot of times startup founders or co-founders are not aware about these things, and they end up choosing the wrong instrument, whereby they dilute more of equity. And I'm one of those investors. During my experience also, I always used to tell companies, ensure that there's limited dilution in the initial stage of your growth, because this is really, really important for you. Ankit, if there are any questions, if someone has doubt, I'm happy to explain on this slide because it's a little technical, but you want me to explain and touch upon this. So I've done that. Ankit, you're on mute.
Sorry. So we have a question from Hindol Bhattacharya. They are asking pure debt, which stage, when to avoid, when to go for it. Pure debt.
Pure debt. So pure debt, so debt comes with an interest coverage, right? So if you are a company which is able to get debt at a subsidized rate of interest, which is like, I think DBT and BIREC, they provide debts to technocrats, right, at a 5% amount, which is very, very good percentage. And sometimes it can go as low as 2%. So if you are a company which can gear, and when I say gear, it technically means that I have, after my EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation and amortization, profits in the business, I am able to make payment of my interest amount. So debt you should only take when you can make payment of that interest amount, because otherwise you will be in default of debt and you will be regarded as an NPA after some point in time. Like they can, if it's like a BIREC and all, they may extend that debt to, let's say, 2 years or 3 years. I would request you to take debts from government organizations. I'm not talking about banks, which provide a moratorium for a period of, let's say, initial 2 years or 2.5 years, and then the interest starts kicking in. Those kinds of debt, I think, is very, very good for you guys to take in, because I believe that at this stage of your life, of your startup, you may be pre-revenue or maybe revenue, but maybe incurring operating profits, but losses at EBITDA level. So please ensure that you know your financials well is also one point which I want to let you know, because this is all fine. But if your financials are not supporting what you want to take, then the whole purpose of this exercise of raising funding is defeated. So, so there's one more.
Yeah, we have a couple of more questions.
Yeah.
Coming from first, Shrikant is asking, typically, what is the discount for a CCD agreement?
Sorry, Shrikant, if you could just speak. I have not understood discount for CCD agreement. So CCD is compulsory convertible debentures, as per my understanding, and there is no typical discount for any agreement. So what happens is, when you take a compulsory convertible debentures, again, as per the FEMA regulation, you have to have a floor and a cap, which technically means a floor price of, let's say, I'm just giving these numbers. If you think that your business is valued at 10 crores today, and you want to convert your debentures 2 years from now. So we will, based on the valuation of your company, we will decide that after 2 years, your company would be valued at 30 crores. Okay. At 30 crores, I will say, since I was an earlier investor and I believed in you, if you achieve 30 crores, okay, you have to give me a discount of, let's say, 10% or 15% or 20% to that 30 crores, because I believed in you. If you are raising a subsequent round, so from other investors, you will take 30 crores as a valuation. From me, when I'm converting, that would be 30 crores minus 30 into 10%. So my valuation when will be converting would be 27 crores. So if this is your question, Shrikant, this typically is, there is no particular percentage. It depends upon the negotiation which you have with your investor and also on your negotiation skills. But market typically sees it from 10% to 25%. It can go as high as 25%. And again, as I said, there may be investors who can ask for 30%, 40%, but it is on your negotiation skills.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We have another question from Angraj. He's from one of the startups we have in our cohort of waste to wealth startups. He's asking what should be the valuation of waste management startups that have an annual revenue of 1.54 crore. Now, I just want to extend this question a bit, right? So, and also I think this will help in educating us all that, you know, deriving your valuation simply from your revenue, I think would not make sense from the sector you are in, right? So, Prachi, if you could explain everyone that why valuation is more of a game of storytelling rather than a game of numbers.
Right.
Just numbers. Right?
Yeah. So it's both, as Ankit rightly mentioned, that it is not just a component of one, but of both. Of course, it's a valuation. So technically, I'll just explain, Ankit, before coming to the storytelling part. Technically speaking, valuation is very, very subjective. It is based on what you are projecting. So there is a model, financial model, which you have to make, which is a discounted cash flow model, which typically means that you're projecting your financial statements like year-wise revenue, the way we do not only revenue, but an entire P&L. So there would be revenue, expenses, and there would be PAT, right? Profit after tax. Similarly, for FY 24, 25, 26, and 27, when I project this based on the discounted cash flow method, we will create a valuation. There's a methodology involved in doing that, and you may need experts to value the company, and it's not rocket science. If you could do that as well, if you kind of want to study further on that, you take out a valuation of your company, which may be around, let's say, 30 crores, 40 crores, or 50 crores. Now, when you sit with the investors may start negotiating on those valuation, and it may again come down because they feel that you say that today my turnover is 1 crore, 2 crores, 1.54 crores. Next year, it will be 100 crores, which is not realistic and practicable, because how it will be 100 crores? Either you have those order pipeline, you need to build up a team to give that kind of, to reach that revenue number. So I think valuation, so discounted cash flow methodology is one way of getting a valuation. The second methodology to understand, and it's an average of all these methodology when we value the company, when as an investor we used to value the company. The second important thing is the what you call is trading multiples. Considering the sector you are in, there will be very, very limited companies or maybe negligible companies on the stock exchange from where I can get multiple numbers like a price earning ratio or a revenue multiple. Because the company which you are in, I don't think there are a lot of listed companies. If there are listed companies available in India, I would request you to take their revenue multiple numbers, their EBITDA multiple numbers, their PAT numbers, as well as the price earning ratio, and try figuring and discounting it to a particular rate, because they would be like a 2,000 crore company and you are like a 1 crore company. So whatever multiple they will have, you have to discount it by 60-70% to reach your number. So that's second method. The third is there a recent private equity venture capital deal in the domain which you are in? So it's not a listed company, but it's in a similar domain where you are, or same domain where you are in. So the multiples are easy to get because they're available in the market. And then you can say that, oh, this company has got 3 times the multiple of sales, right? So the way you asked me that 1.54 crores. So if in your industry, if it is 3 times the multiple of sales or 10 times the multiple of sales. So in your scenario, if it is 10 times, then it is 1.54 into 10. So your valuation would be 15 crores based on this particular approach of private equity, and which is a recent deal, recent deals available in the market. So we typically, what we clubbed all these various valuation methodologies, and then we come out average of all these things. Like we will see DCF co, we'll provide them an X percentage. So assuming as per DCF, you are 30%, 30 crore valuation. As per trading multiple, you have a valuation of 50 crores. As per the multiple approach, which I just spoke about, the recent multiple, you have a valuation of 40 crores. So I will kind of give percentage weightage to all these 3 approaches, and then I'll have an average number of them. So there may be a possibility that an average valuation of your company comes out to be around 20 crores. So this is your true valuation. And I've gone, if you think this is much high, you have to justify stating that your product is a niche product and it has the capability to disrupt the market. If you can prove that, you can get any valuation which you desire for. So I think that's really important. And as Ankit told, that it's about storytelling, right? Storytelling is crucially important. See, a lot of times I find that there are a lot of people whose business proposition is extremely good, but they don't know how to convey or articulate their ideas or tell their stories. So I feel that it is equally important. You have to ensure that what you are producing, if you're providing any services, they are into the niche segment, or they are disrupting the world in some way or the other. If you're able to prove that, I think that becomes very easy for investor to buy it, right? Because even investors are meeting so many companies throughout the day. And you have to be honest. I think when you are telling your story, the passion should come out. I think what should come out is the passion, your honesty, your genuineness, and of course, I think what is very, very important, which an investor looks at, is your leadership skill. I think because ultimately, after you reach a particular stage, it is all about how you lead your team, how well you execute what you want to do, and how well your operations are. So I think this is what I have to say, Ankit, about telling your story. And it's a mixture of everything. You see, it has to be a 5-course meal which you have to offer to investors. I will say that this becomes really important. This is how you have to tell your stories, and your stories have to be backed by numbers. It should not be just like oh, I aspire to do this, oh, I want to do this. No, what you have to tell a story which is very, very backed by numbers, and you have to be hands-on with everything, whatever you want to convey to the investors. So I think, Ankit, this is with respect to the question which you kind of just...
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prachi. We have a few more questions. There is a follow-up question from Angraj, which is it okay to raise a bridge round from friends, family for a valuation hike?
Of course, yes. I think that's everybody does that. They raise a bridge round. And as I say that during a bridge round, typically that cap and floor comes and plays an important role, that my valuation will not go beyond this and will not go below this. And I think this is a typical methodology which everybody uses. But I think as an investor, I can see through, right, that you have raised a bridge round just to hike the valuation.
Yeah.
So, so it's a very honest question you have asked, actually. But I think you can raise a bridge round and reach to a level where you want that the valuation actually hikes, right? It should not happen कि अभी मेरा 10 करोड़ है, मैं चलो bridge round raise कर लेता हूँ 25 लाख का family friend से, अभी मैंने valuation कर दिया 25 करोड़ मेरा 10 करोड़ से, अभी मैं तीसरा round जाके 35 करोड़ raise करूंगा. No, investors will going to see through that, and I will tell you, a down round is very, very harmful for you than an up round.
Yes.
So 10 करोड़ से अगर आप 15 करोड़ आ रहे हो और फिर 25 करोड़ जा रहे हो, acceptable है. लेकिन अगर आप 35 करोड़ से 20 करोड़ आते हो, तो subsequent, there's so many questions which you have to answer, and I think it becomes very...
Even the existing investors will question you. The
Correct.
upcoming investors will lose their faith and trust in you.
Right. So it should not be an exercise just for the purpose of it. So I typically advise my companies to go for a bridge round, because fundraising, it's a task altogether. And I would say that if you are all solo founders, now found one more co-founder with you, because if you get involved in fundraising, your business will definitely bound to get affected, because it's like a 6-month, 7-month process. Even if you're accepted, like, okay, you will be funded by an investor, there would be due diligence, which will take another 1.5 years. Then there would be term sheet negotiation. Then there would be legal negotiation. So typically it takes 3 to 4 months post I've said, yes, okay, now I want to make investment. And if there are certain red flags in the due diligence, right? And my financial due diligence team says that this is not correct. They've not accrued the revenues properly. They have taken future revenues into account, into current revenue. So this number is not meeting. Then I will say, namaste, I'm not going to invest in your company, right? So I think all these things are very, very crucial and important. And why I made this point is because of the fact that in the process of raising fund, we tend to forget all these things. You can raise bridge round when you really need that money, and you're not able to raise it. You feel that there is another 4 months. Your runway is only for 2 months, and you know if without money you are not going to sustain. That's the right time for you to go ahead and raise a bridge round, so that it will help you to sustain for another 6 months, which in turn will help you to raise a bigger round of funding, maybe $1 million or a $2 million. And also to get the right valuation, and also to reach that traction where you want to raise that $2 million round funding.
We have 2 more questions. So I'll take up the first one. What is the best way this is from Rajiv Kumar. He's asking, what is the best way to get funding for clinical trials for a new molecule?
So I think the best way to
I
get
think
funding,
it would be grants. There are various grants.
But he's asking ex-government agencies. So I think reach out to health tech.
BIRAC,
funds.
you can reach out to BIRAC.
Yeah, BIRAC is there, of course. BIRAC is there, DTP is there. But I'm telling they should reach out to health startups, right? They understand that what new molecules are you developing. They have that niche. They understand that. They understand that the gestation period for you is not like 2 years. They have to wait because there's a human clinical trial which has to happen. There's a new molecule which you are developing, be it for some treatments or anything else. So what you really need is actually ensuring that you, as I said, find the right health tech investors who understand your business. And once they understand your business and they realize there's a value in the molecule which you're producing, they are happy to fund you. I've seen companies in the health tech space in clinical trials raising $5 million in spite of the fact that they're pre-revenue. So here you really need to find investors who understand your business.
So we have two questions from Shrikant. The first one is, does CCD need a valuation now? Can we avoid it from a legal and income tax perspective?
No, you can't avoid it. As soon as, if you have a foreign investor coming into your company, you need to value the company now. If it is a domestic investors, it's okay. But even though as per ROC, you have to value the company, but for international investors, it's a must. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. Neither
Second
from
question
legal.
he is asking. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, so I'm telling neither from legal perspective, from FEMA perspective, or from ROC perspective. From every perspective, you have to get that valuation report.
Yeah. So his next question is, typically with friends and family, what instrument do you suggest?
See, it depends upon how comfortable you are. I've seen a lot of them giving away with equity also.
I think the best instrument would be debt at no interest rate.
At no interest rate. I totally agree with you, Ankit. So Ankit has an answer for that. And I think it's about the relationship. If they're bringing in certain values, I think you can give them 2%, 3% stake in the company. Or as Ankit rightly said that बहुत ही अच्छे friends हैं जिनको equity नहीं चाहिए जो बोल रहे हैं भैया आप you grow. So
Believe in your initiative.
Take a debt instrument.
Yeah. We have another question from Mr. Amitabh Ranjan. He's asking, how do we balance the need for raising capital with maintaining an appropriate valuation for the startup?
So I think this is the balance. It's like an equilibrium, right? And this is you don't have a clear-cut answer for this, Mr. Ranjan, but I think what you really need to understand is that, and as I say, valuation and dilution, they are two sides of the same coin, right? So you need to first determine at this stage where you are in, like, let's say a seed stage, I can maximum dilute 10% equity stake in my company because this is what is making sense to me. And maybe I can go 2 to 3% here and there, up and up. But once you have decided onto that amount, you also have to decide how much funding you have to raise. Once you have decided the funding and the valuation number, I think these are the three components which you have to keep in mind before deciding what should be the typical valuation of the company, how much should I dilute and how much I have to raise. I think these three numbers, once you have it in your mind, you will get better clarity as to what you got to do. Because a lot of times you may say 10% equity stake mujhe hi karna hai. You are valuing your company as 50 crores. Suddenly investor says your company is valued at 25 crores, right? And you are in desperate need to raise funds. So you're diluting 20% that point in time. So there's a lot of things which comes and plays a very important role. I think there is no clear-cut answer to that. But you have to sit and introspect on the questions which I gave on slide 1. So yeah, so Ankit, can I move on to next slide, please?
Yes, please. So we have, I think, around 10-15 minutes more.
Sure. So I think
if we can cover up most of the things from your end in 10 minutes, then I'll have a few questions.
Sure. So deal structuring, as I said, that I just spoke about this, right? Valuation and dilution. This is very, very crucial for every investor. I mean, for every investor as well as for startups. And I will say more so from a startup perspective, this is very, very important. They are interdependent concept and very important. Consider instrument, as I've been emphasizing, that which leads to minimum dilution at very early stage of your life. Also, you should have an instrument which gives you a little flexibility, like a convertible or an equity linked instrument. And as I say, bridge round, which can be non-priced with a floor and a cap. Of course, for the purposes of all these FEMA, ROC, you have to do the valuation as on today and make the filings that you got to do. You can't done away with that. As I say, biggest mistake by many startups in my journey, where I've heard more than 1,500 plus startups in past 15 years. What I've realized is that a lot of startups in a phase where they are eager to raise funding. And I think in India today, raising funding has become like a glamour, right? It's like, oh, you have raised funding, it implies that you're successful. No. Whether you have raised funding or not is not important. Whether you have sustainable businesses in place, which will be grown further by raising funding, is important. So I think in that herd race, where if my friend who is also an entrepreneur, I am also an entrepreneur, he has raised fund, I feel like obliged to raise funds, then what I typically do is end up diluting more of my equity stake. What happens is that so I know, I'll give you a typical example of this company wherein they have diluted 30 to 40% of their equity stake at an early stage, only for providing some tech related services to them. Okay, there was no money. The money which came in is only 25 lakhs. For developing their tech, 30-40% diluted. When they came to us, right, we said that this is not palatable because they are only giving you services for which you could have actually, it's an operating working capital requirement, right? For an operating need of your business, you have actually diluted 40%, 30 to 40%, which is not unheard of. And I think we were not able to take that. We took that company on our IC, and IC rejected it, stating that as the entrepreneur will raise subsequent round of funding, it will become so difficult for them to raise subsequent funding because ultimately investors' interest would be only 10%. So this is very, very important. And as I say, you have to choose the right investors. So right investors are very crucial and important for your growth. And choose investors, those who not give you money. Choose investors who will also add value to your business. Value may be in terms of ensuring that you grow outside India, which is like a global network, ensuring that they will connect you to vendors, to customers, help you in building a brand, connect you to 5 more people so that your business grows. So I think these are 2 important things which I feel startups should not make mistakes on. So you want to take this question or I complete this first, Ankit?
Yeah, so I think the question is to an extension of what you were just now explaining, right? So they
Key
are
metrics,
asking
okay,
about
give red flags to investors regarding an investment.
investment.
Okay. So key metrics, which is a red flag, as I said that, let's take, for example, you are doing a business, you are doing a project, right? You are into this stage where you have an STB plant, which you're putting. I'm just taking that example. Okay. And it has some technological intervention. It's disrupting the market. You can create smaller plans, right? And you have got an order book of, let's say, 10 crores today. But the delivery dates for those order books are different. So there may be a possibility you think that these orders have come, executed agreements we have, but you have not delivered it till date. And you said that my turnover today is 10 crores, FY23, which is not the right depiction because you have to render those services because this is in advance money which you have received, right? So once you have provided that plan, some may take 3 months, some may take 6 months, some may take 9 months, some may take 12 months, because you have limited team. One project will complete, then you will go to the next project, again go to the third project. So if you say your FY23 turnover is 10 crores and FY24 ka order book is 25 crore, right? Then this is not correct because your FY23 turnover is only that much as much you have delivered. So maybe you have delivered to the tune of 5 crores. So your turnover is 5 crores. Then this 5 crores is received in advance for FY25. Plus whatever in advance is received, as I said, 25 crores. So this becomes a red flag because as per you, your business is growing like, oh, 10 crores. Then if there is a 250% hike, it becomes 25 crores. But actually, you are not recognizing your revenue well. So there comes an accounting principle of recognizing revenue. So that revenue recognition is not correct, and that could be a red flag. There could be an expense which you have to capital, which you have to provide it in your P&L account. And what you are doing it, you are capitalizing it. When you do that, you are increasing your profitability. So I feel, oh, wow, that's a great business to invest in. It has like 30% EBITDA margins. Wow. But later I realize what you have done. So that becomes a red flag. Then there is also technical diligence which is being done. So assuming you say that your process is one of the niche processes, this, that. But during the process, we realize that somebody is also having a similar trademark or an IPR or intellectual property right on that property. That could be a red flag, right? Plus, somebody may ask, oh, I say that this business is being done in this manner. Or red flag maybe if after raising funding, the founder takes 5 lakhs of salaries at his home. For what? Right? So these are various red flags which comes, and depending upon which industry you are in, the industry focus red flag. But you have to be within that when you're because When it's a financial diligence, I'm seeing your financials. When it's a technical diligence, I'm seeing your technical. When it's a legal diligence, I'm seeing the legal entities, the services which you're providing. If you have taken some loan from some government, are you kind of getting that loan? So I think all these factors need to take into consideration. And these are key metrics which a diligence guys may look at. Dr. Sabapati has asked this question. I think diligence, we are kind of covered itself. But
Yeah.
how to calculate a runway? So it's very simple. So you have to first find out. So as I say to every entrepreneur, you should know your numbers well. Being in the business, you can't say that, I don't know, I'll ask my CFO. At least broader numbers. I'm not telling you should know that how much salary your marketing staff may be whatever that person's name X is earning. But you should at least know what is your marketing budget is, right? So broader numbers, I request everybody to know. So as I say, ask your how to calculate the runway, ask what is the cash component, what is the cash available with you? So let's say your cash available is 30 lakhs with you, okay? And as on date, and every month you spend 3 lakh rupees, right? You know how much are you burning? Because runway question only comes when you are burning. It doesn't come when you have a sustainable business which is generating profits. So when you say 3 lakh is what I'm burning every month, so 30 by 3 is equal to 10 months. I'm very simplistically, I'm kind of explaining this concept. Is 10 months runway I have. So if I have 10-month runway, if I think I need to grow, right? Assuming after 3rd month, I need to spend 5 lakh, right? So this runway from 10 months reduces to 8 months. Someone asked me, what is the right time for me to start raising funds before I kind of done away with all my money? So I would say that start as early as 6 months. As I said, the due diligence itself takes its own sweet time. And it's a very, going and selling your product or service is easier to a customer than going and pitching about your business to people. And I truly believe that. And it becomes after a point in time very, very frustrating exercise, because there may be a possibility that you have heard 40 no's or 100 no's. And then you start questioning yourself, what I'm doing, is it correct or is it wrong? Right? So I think that becomes very, very important for you to have a minimum runway of at least 4 to 5 months, or maybe 6 months before you go into the market and start raising funds, because there may be a possibility you may take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And you should have that much amount of money in your hands.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we have not a lot of time on our hands, unfortunately, right? But there is a lot to discuss.
Yeah,
I'm
and there
sure.
are a few more slides as well. I think I'm not done yet. So yeah, so I'll just complete those slides first. So diligence, as I say, that a lot of times people ask me that they're not diligence ready. So I select a startup and I say, okay, we are fine. IC approved you, and we will be taking you to the due diligence process. And suddenly the startups are taken aback, because they have been pitching, they have been raising funds, they are doing a lot of stuff, but their data room is not ready. And then suddenly they are like, oh, so they take 20 days more to make the data room ready. When I say data room, it typically means all your documents should be in one place, your financials, your legal documentation, your technical documentation, so that you can give it to us for verification. So they take their own sweet time, and diligence is a two-way road, right? Whatever you give me, my team will work on that. So if you don't give me, my team cannot work on that. And also I have a limited time span as an investor, right? So I may say that I've allocated 1 month to this particular enterprise. So if I don't get data in 25 days, I'll feel like that my time is now being diverted to somebody else. And then you are taken a backseat, though my IC has approved it, but then the limited resources at our end also. So then it's taken a backseat, and then you take maybe, if you would have taken 3 months, you may take 4 months now. So I would request everyone, when you're raising funds, ensure that this data room is available. These are all documentation, no rocket science, assign one person, ensure this is ready. And it is also useful for you as an organization to be systematic, organized. If someone asks you, where is your startup certificate? I should know I have to go to this particular folder in this. This is the document which I have to open. Where is my incorporation document? Where is my ROC, MO, and AOA? Right? I have to be structured. If you don't have an in-house CFO's finance team, hire a good consultant who could do this on your behalf, because I don't want you to spend time on all these things. This is not your forte, not your core. Get some good friend who can help you out. Just do it. Friends are always, I think they are one of the persons, I will say, they always come handy to us in times of need. and they don't even ask anything. And I have a lot of good friends who have always been by my side. And as I said, typically it takes 20 to 30 days to complete the diligence process. So ensure that you have the right team in place so that this exercise is completed, because once this gets completed, you will negotiate legal documentation, execute it, and then the money will flow into your account. Term sheet negotiation, very crucial, very important. Do not, find that a lot of startups get very, very excited when they receive the term sheet for the first time and they feel, no, kar do sign, like let's sign it. A lot of times they don't understand what is there in the term sheet, what are the terminologies in the term sheet, and they're happy to execute what they want to, like they're happy to just execute it. And when it kind of after 2 years, when that particular point triggers and they're like, "Arey, hame to pata hi nahi tha," right? So I would request all of you, as much time as you give to your business when you are raising funds, please give some time to this. And the best thing is that start reading term sheets. They're freely available. Understand what it is meant. And I can definitely take one session explaining various terms of the term sheet. I'll not do that now, but hire a good lawyer, which is very important, and someone who is again your friend, because he will be by your side and ensure that what you want is being given. Negotiate your term well. You can say no to a term sheet. It will not put you in a bad light. I've seen a lot of startups saying that I've got this term sheet. If I say no, I'll be put in a bad light. People, they will tell to their investors that this startup is a little pricey, the founder is a little pricey, not taking my term sheet. But I think times have changed now. The founders chooses their investors as well. And if you think that you cannot deliver on something with respect to the term sheet, please do not accept it. Either you negotiate to reach it to your level, and sometimes there has to be mutual agreements to certain things. Jahan pe few steps you have to take, few they have to take, and you come to a consensus at a particular level. But I will give a classic example is liquidation preference. So in a liquidation preference, when my company is liquidated or there's a liquidity event happening, right, which also includes winding up of the company, the investor says that before I can pay to any equity holder of the company, a liquidation preference allows me to have 2.5x of my capital first. So assuming you have a setup where there's a factory and you sold off the factory, whatever money comes up, 2.5x goes. I will say that amount, though, you will not be giving them at like a 25-30% IRR also in 5 years' time. So why during the liquidity event, right? So ensure that you have these clauses in a right manner. You do what is correct. 1x preferential, 1.25, 1.5 is correct, right? But not like whatever number they are giving. So think through everything. If you don't understand, sit with your lawyer, understand it, and then negotiate the term sheet. Then execute the term sheet. Now, this is one of the very important questions, which I think all startups have. What is an investor perspective? I've covered a lot of points as we were just kind of speaking. What are they looking into? I think that's fine. Kaun sa instrument raise karna hai, fundraising seek liya humne. But as an investor, what I want to see in your company? First of all, I want to make clear that not all companies are VC investable companies. Okay. There are companies which may be great companies, but they are not funded by venture capital, because venture capital needs a hockey stick growth a lot of times, right? So it starts with like 10 crores, 20 crores, 40 crores, 100 crores in 5 years. And when you are building models, when you are building businesses, okay, which takes its own sweet time to converge into revenue numbers, it becomes very difficult as a VC investor for me to make investments. So if you come to me with a proposal stating that my business is 1 crore today, 3 crores next year, 5 crores next year, and after that it will be 10 crores. So I, as an investor, will say that this is not a VC investable business for me. This would be a good business. Or the market size is only 100 crores, right? Assuming whatever you are doing, the total market size itself is 100 crores, 200 crores, wherein if there are few more competitors coming in, I may just get maximum my market size, assuming today would be 100 crores. Tomorrow, if more competitors may come in, it may become like a 30-40 crore maximum revenue. So there are a lot of things which an investor look into it. Build sustainable businesses, as I'm again telling you, don't run after right kind of funding. It's not only VC funding, there are various avenues available for funding. Need to have a unique selling proposition, as as we have discussed, it is you should have a very differentiated product. A lot of time I find, Ankit, and I'll tell you, I kind of being juried a lot of cohorts as well. They say we are trading. and they say we need to raise VC funding. How could trading could be a VC funding business? It can't be. If either you have a platform wherein you are kind of bringing in a lot of people together and there is some technological intervention, but trading business cannot be a VC fundable businesses. VC fundable businesses would be like something like, let's say a clean tech technology will help me in reducing the usage of lithium ion batteries, or maybe an EV vehicle, right? Wherein I could have a battery life, which is like 10 hours. Those are the kind of businesses which an investor is looking at. And I just gave those like example, clean tech, sustainable businesses, or I will take example of one of your cohort members. He is coming up with a nano seed, which doesn't require it to be watered for 30 days, right? Those are the kinds of companies which investors are looking at, because this will bring in the next lead of innovation, right? So just simple business, no. Something which is disrupting the market or is a different way of doing a business is something which a VC is looking at. Innovation, disruption I've covered. Passion of founders, I think, which is very, very important. A lot of times, as Ankit has fondly spoken about, storytelling, right? And only a passionate founder can tell a story, right? And this is very important. And this is what, as an investor, I looked at. Maybe I can say, okay, 1, 2 things, it's here and there, upar niche chalega. But if there's a passion, the founders, they know they want to grow, they want to do this, they can pivot from A to B, and how quickly they can do it is important. Again, I will say put forth that it's not important to be from IIT, IIMs. I have seen, because there's a phase which I've seen, every investor would only like to invest in people from Stanford, Harvard, IIT, IIMs. But business also happens in tier 2, tier 3 cities where people do not have access to these wonderful institutes. I love them, Ankit. I just had a session with IIM Bangalore in the morning. But it's just that good ideas get rejected because the first thing which they see, I mean, I've been part of this, they're not from the...
In fact, 80% of the startups we incubate are non-alumni or non-IIT startups.
Thank you so much,
In fact,
Ankit.
most of the genuine innovations and, hardworking innovators we have the pleasure of incubating at our incubator are from tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Thank you so much, Ankit, for letting me know this. But this is very, very important, because there are a lot of times good businesses come from those places. Great ideas come from there. So this is, I personally, maybe others have a different opinion about it. I personally look at the business. What is the founder's passion? What is team strength, which is equally important. A passion of founder is good. But whether that founder can bring along that team together to reach it to a level where it has to be, it becomes really important for me. And as I spoke about the market size and addressable market, if it is only, again, VC looks at a market size which is $500 million plus. They don't look at companies or sectors, I will say, not companies. Sectors where the market size is less than 100, 200, or do not have the potential to grow. So these are the key factors which investors look at when they decide on to whether to invest in a company or a sector or not. Now, to how to prepare before and after investor meeting, I think everybody and Ankit would have been telling all of you how to do that, but these are just my 2 cents. Do rehearse, don't think that it's okay, I'll just go there and do it. Reflect that passion, be confident. Very, very important, know your financial number well. Please know your numbers very, very well. I find a lot of times people do not know what CAC is. It's customer acquisition cost, or what LTV means. Right, and they are like, oh, dumbstruck, what does that mean? And then the investors feel like, oh, you don't even know this. During the meeting, understand the question asked by investors. If you don't understand it, ask them to repeat them. Be honest and truthful. If you don't know anything, be upfront or say that I've not thought about it, rather than bringing up a story or telling something, because we have seen like so many investors, so we know whether you're telling the truth or not. As I said, do ask questions, be open-minded to what the investor is telling. There are a lot of times that I see businesses pivot because of feedback from investors, and they're doing great, doing well. The investors may not have invested into the business, right? But they are doing well. And I do understand these are your babies, right? And you don't want to hear anything negative about it, but please be open, because this feedback will going to help you. After the meeting, as I say, it may not converge into what you want it to be, like a yes or a no, but understand that there are no bad meetings, and you should learn to say no to an investor as well when you think is the right time. So I think this is very, very important. And I feel that everyone should practice this. Now, this is more about pitch deck, which I can take later point in time. So I'm done with this now. I just want to make, if you are okay, Ankit, if I can make this announcement, or if you have a question, I'll do that later, maybe.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
The pitch deck I'll take later because it's itself is a yeah. So
I think we'll plan a follow-up session also with you.
Sure,
Right.
sure. So there is this exhibition which is happening. I think Ankit has already shared this with you. So why I wanted to make an announcement, because before 31st May, there's a discount which is available if you want to exhibit your stall. I'm part of the organizing committee of Startups Fair. It is by Institute of Chartered Accountant of India, Ministry of MSME and Startup, Niti Aayog. If you want, please do come out here, exhibit your stalls if possible. This is a great avenue because a lot of investors, delegates across the world would be coming here. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. Now I'm happy to answer any further questions which you have.
Yeah, I think this was a pretty good session for me also, right? A lot of learnings for everyone.
Thank you so much.
So if there are any questions, any last question which we can take up, please put it in the Q&A box.
I'm happy to take like sessions. I have.
We'll arrange next session on maybe pitch deck.
Sure.
And on the technical terminologies, right, around fundraising, so that we'll do. Yeah, so we have our, okay. Will the PPT be shared? So we'll not be able to share the PPT, but this will be on our YouTube channel. So this was recorded session. So you can maybe refer to that link later on through the incubator's YouTube. Yeah, so I think we are good to go. Thank you, Prachi. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, so we'll plan more sessions with you.
Sure.
Right, and I would also like to reiterate that Ms. Prachi is one of our the mentors at SIIT Kanpur. So if any startups are looking for any specific help from her, they can feel free to reach out to us, anyone from the incubator. I think the best person to reach out to would be Vatsala. So Vatsala in our team is the point of contact for all mentors and startups, right? So thank you so much, Prachi. We'll plan the next one very soon with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time again.
All the best to everyone, all the attendees. And I think you're doing a great job. And I think with IIT Kanpur support, SIIC, and a great team, Ankit, Tushar, Vatsala, these are the people whom I know. Piyush, I think it's a great work which you are doing. And I think clean tech is the next wave, as Gender Lens Investing was a few years back. And we really need to get some good companies, Ankit, out of IIT Kanpur, which can disrupt the global markets soon. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.